Hello again, YouTube. Thanks for tuning in for another video. Just to ask if you could like and subscribe if you like the content that I've been bringing you. Again, I've got something else that I just wanted to bring up, which I noticed on one of the XRP charts. And I just wanted to bring you some news and also some frustrations that I do have with XRP. So I've been an investor in XRP since 2017. We did see that big pump, and then ever since then, it's completely dropped off. And there's been a lot of things that have been crossing my mind in terms of XRP. It has had a lot of adoption. SBI Bank in Japan, and Japan are really pushing XRP. But if you look at, some of the fundamental technologies that they've been releasing, so I'll just do an example like Coil. If you ever use that platform, in my personal opinion, and please don't hate me by saying this, but in my personal opinion, I think Coil was pretty rubbish. It doesn't really work very well, and it's very awkward to use. I do not like Coil, and there's quite a few other, technologies that they've brought out and they invested in, and I haven't really thought that they've been that great. If you compare what XRP have brought out to the market compared to crypto.com, there's just no comparison. Crypto.com is a fabulous, application. The app is amazing. The investment is amazing. The interest is really good. They give back to the community on a regular basis. They're just running an event now with 50% off Bitcoin. And actually, if you could just use my link in the description below, a referral link for crypto.com, I'd really appreciate that, and that will help me out a huge amount. So I just wanted to divulge on what is happening with XRP. So this thing crossed my mind again, and I looked on Google. I couldn't find any news or information around how this actually works. But if you think about a lot of the big money transfer banks across the world, they will take from 5 days, sometimes a week, sometimes even longer to transfer your money. And I think partly it's because the SWIFT system is quite slow. But I think the other part of that is that the reason why SWIFT has never been improved in terms of the speed of the transactions is because I think that the banks that do the transfers get interest on the money that you transfer. So say if you transfer £5,000, you send it to a bank or money transfer service, they'll hold on to that cash for a couple of days. And in those couple of days, they'll then gain interest on the money that you send to them. And then what they'll do is then they'll start the transaction and send that the funds off to the person that you want to send it to. The other thing as well is, that's one key thing is putting off banks in terms of adopting XRP. Why would you want to lose your revenue stream if you're getting interest on the money that's been sent to people all over the world, and you're making good money off that? I think that's going to start to change over the next couple of months. With interest rates falling and interest rates potentially going into the minus territory, there's going to be very little interest that people are going to be able to hold on the money transfer system. So I do believe over the next year or two, there's going to be a bit of a push to use XRP. The other thing as well, of course, is all of these smaller businesses are using XRP to do money transfers, and they've been able to give individuals much more competitive rates in terms of transferring the money. And I think by having that available to the consumer, that's going to really drive those consumers to those businesses rather than the bigger organisations. And I think that's going to really put a lot of pressure on the bigger banks to say, okay, you know what, we're going to have to move to this platform at some point. We better do it now, or in 6 months, or in 12 months. They've all looked at it. I think they already have something in place. They just haven't pressed the go live button yet. And I think because they want to try and maximize the amount of interest they can get for the time being before interest rates drops down to zero or below zero. So as and when that happens, I think that will be very bullish for XRP. The other thing I wanted to just show you, and again, I'm not a huge TA guy. Please keep in mind that this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not qualified in this at all. I'm an engineer. by trade, but I do have a keen interest in following patterns. And as you can see here, this chart goes back, all the way to, July 2017. Not much happens, and then boom, we get a massive spike. But you can see on this accumulation and distance chart on the bottom that we started off with, about 739 million. We get this massive spike, and at the peak, we have 1.49 billion dollars circulating around. And then, of course, as expected, then that actual value actually gets maintained throughout its course. So then if you have a look, and as we go across further, just keep that figure in mind. At the peak we had 149. 149 billion. Sorry, that was 1.44 billion. Apologies. But then you can see that if I shrink this chart more actually, and you can see over a longer time scale that we've had a peak of this recently. So here we've got almost 2 billion, and then after that it then goes to 2.6 billion. At the moment we are currently sitting at 3 billion. So while this goes up, and historically whenever we've had an increase of accumulation, you can see that there's been a price pump. So that took some time before that did actually start happening, but you can see it kind of went in line with the amount of accumulation that was happening. But likewise, if we have a look over here to where we are today, there's been a rise since the beginning of this year, and in fact the prices have actually dropped. So if I just zoom in on this chart here, let me just reload this. Sorry, I don't know what is going on with my chart. Let me go to 1 month. Wow, okay. Sorry about this. There was something I wanted to show you on here, but of course it is not cooperating at all. If I just go to 5 year, nope. If I just do that, if I go to 1 month, no. It does not want to work. Sorry, bear with me 1 minute, and I'll just go to that again. So this is actually a different chart. It's not what I really wanted to show you. But basically this line up here, I had it drawn better on my other chart, but this is a long-term trend line. Let me just see if I can just try and get the other one up again. Let's go to the bit stamp. Yeah, so there we go, it's cooperating now. So you can see that we're up on this uptrend, and this is from May. This is the last week or two, and we've going on a steady uptrend. Then that big dump happened, and we broke below that rising wedge, and we've been doing that for a very long time. If you go all the way back, we haven't even come close to touching that for a very long period of time. I think we did break above it back in February of this year, and then we slowly started to trend below it. So we've never been able to sustain our gains above that trend line. But if you have a look, we are starting to consolidate into a symmetrical triangle here, and the downtrend, and bearing in mind this is a multi-year downtrend, I'll see this ending at some point at the end of June or mid-July time, that we'll start to see this pattern break out of this wedge. And in my opinion, I think that's going to be very bullish. If you have a look, you can see how far that wedge goes back. That wedge starts all the way back on the 15th of December 2017. So that is a very long time that we have broken it over above it a couple of times, but we haven't been able to sustain those gains. And I think very soon we're going to be able to break above that and maintain above it for a period of time. So as you can see here, actually, yeah, so the beginning of July is the first point where we could break out. And then the next point, if we can't break it at that point, I think we'll be looking for a breakout on the 1st of September. And they're the 2 points that I'll be waiting for hopefully a breakout. So I hope that's been somewhat useful for you and giving you my perspective on what's going to be happening with XRP. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks, everyone.